Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We continue with same session, part two, energy crisis and global and regional gas markets. And we will go directly to Ms. Bojana Chovsky, Secretary General of Gas Infrastructure Europe. Hi, Bojana, you have the floor. Have a nice day. It is still snowing in Sofia?
Yes, hello, not anymore. Hello, everyone. It was such a fantastic first part of this session. It was so interesting to listen to good colleagues I know very well. Do you see? I just want to check with you. Do you see my screen? You see my slides, the presentation? Perfect. Very good. Okay, so as I mentioned, first of all, thank you to the organizers for having me here and to have an opportunity to be part of this debate. As I mentioned, very interesting first session. There was so much said about the energy crisis, and of course, this it really makes sense because gas is in every mouth in the past days and weeks and months, and that makes sense because gas is actually 30% of the energy that we are consuming in Europe. So people are really wondering why is this price skyrocketing and where this energy is coming from. So the industry that I'm representing, I'm coming from an association called Gas Infrastructure Europe with 20, coming from 27 different countries. Our representatives are 70 companies. We transport and store all color of molecules, and it could be low carbon or renewable ones. It could be biomethane, it could be hydrogen, it could be natural gas, among others. And in fact, this is the technologies that we are operating, like the LNG, the pipelines, also the storages, really are crucial to deliver the Paris Agreement. So we can enable also system integration. System integration was also mentioned during the previous debate, and allow more and more renewables to be integrated to the system, for instance, for transporting the energy from wind, from sun, other in the forms of hydrogen. So we can also decarbonize the sectors that are very difficult to be electrified, and we can support the regions in their switch from coal to gas to hydrogen. But to unleash such kind of potential, we really need to have a very proper regulatory framework. So you can see on my first slide, indeed, the new ambitions of the new European Commission that was mentioned already. You have two key figures. The first one is, of course, zero net emissions by 2050. And the second one is to have 55 greenhouse gas reduction by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. And indeed, the Fit for 55 package of the Commission was published in July this year with set of numerous initiatives to achieve all these targets. But basically, before to, let's say, how, reach any kind of decarbonization, we really need to look within the different regions within the European Union and the national specifics, because one thing is clear, we can only achieve full decarbonization if we take all the countries, all the regions, all the citizens and national specificities on board, because you can see from the first slide of a study that our association prepared within a request of the European Commission is that European countries, by means of the graphics on the slides, are really different. So in principle, you have countries like Latvia, Poland, Slovakia are only the three examples of how diverse the gross electricity production in Europe is. And if I go to the next slide, you can also see, the situation is similar in the patterns of Central and Eastern Europe. So for example, Greece have the strong reliance on coal and natural gas. So the share of natural gas in the energy mix has really increased in the recent and is predicted to further grow. And natural gas is seen as a transition fuel to renewable and low carbon technologies. And in Romania, you can see a little bit more balanced energy mix, which is coal, gas, hydro, nuclear. So the modernization of the replacement of the conventional power units increase the shares of renewables. So with this, I'm really trying to explain a little bit more. You know, you can see also the heating sector, which is also very different, as well of how the transport fuels provide the opportunities to quick decarbonization wins. So basically, what I'm trying to say here, I will try to be very brief, is that the decarbonization potential in the short to mid-term can be done by switching from coal to natural gas, and of course afterwards to hydrogen, because we have many benefits here. Replacing, let's say, this more fossil polluting to natural gas will enable a very quick and affordable decarbonization wins, because we have these modern gas power plants which produce around 3 times less CO2 emission than the coal plants we are having for the moment. So the reducing really the reliance of coal improves the air quality and health for the citizens. And this is very important for the standard of really living, because the social acceptance, when we talk about all those decarbonization processes, are very important, because sometimes we think that the policymakers are really looking the perspective that the citizens needs also to be ready for this very expensive and timely, costly, actually, transition. So few messages in relation to, let's say, how our assets, the assets that we are operating in Europe, the very well developed existing infrastructure can benefit to hold this process. So we can make really allow the integration of a big share of gases, being natural gas, low carbon, renewable gases, as I mentioned, and this really needs the limits, the need of new energy infrastructure, because this economic benefits will save the costs for the society. Once again, as I mentioned before, reducing the cost of the society really increase the acceptance of the energy transition. So we can contribute, of course, to keep the energy prices also low for the citizens, and especially this is important debate and argument when we talk about this deep energy crisis that we had discussed. So very briefly, you can see on the slide, let's say, how the clear integration of renewable and gases, we can achieve the 2050 decarbonization. So the energy system, we will see where electrons and molecules will still coexist and very much complement each other, because the renewables, of course, can provide the flexibility, the long-term storage that we are operating, and will provide also the efficiency to the entire energy system. We can also decarbonize this very hard to abate sectors, and especially on the industry and in the transport. But there are also valuable options in other sectors. So a huge asset, again, which we operated, is this very well developed infrastructure, which we can have renewables, customers, and the end users really to benefit what we already integrated within our system. But now, probably very quickly about the TSOs, the SSOs, and the LSOs, how we really contribute to the processes. What we can already observe today is that renewable gases will be, let's say, integrated in a different ways, different speeds, different characteristics to the European Union. So the good thing is that we can do, let's say, all this, and we can pathway all these different characteristics. We can start, for example, let me move to the next slide, with the options that we have for the pipelines. Retrofitting is the first one, which of course enables blending and of the renewable gases, in the most cases, hydrogen, because hydrogen is very much on the agenda, into the natural gas mixture. So it supports really the market ramp up of hydrogen. Second option is, of course, the repurposing. We have this existing infrastructure that can be very much fit and used for transport, to store and to import 100% of renewables with these repurposing options. And of course, the third option is to have and to build a new infrastructure in order to connect a new emerging clusters to supply and demand sides and the gas infrastructure. I will finish with storages and LNG very briefly. So again, of the benefits of the pipelines, as I mentioned, basically the transmission pipelines can carry huge amounts of energy. And as we know from recent studies, the single hydrogen pipeline can transport 10 to 20 times more energy than electricity cable. It comes with huge savings because the repurposing of the pipelines only costs 10 to 35% compared to a newly built hydrogen pipeline. So the existing infrastructure therefore must play a really important role in the future energy system on the economic point of view. The underground gas storages, the salt caverns, the depleted fields and aquifers could already today have a really big potential to store at least 60 terawatt hours of hydrogen. So this is a number that will further increase within the next year. So similar to the pipelines, we also see a huge advantages of the storages that we operate at least 100 times cheaper than electricity storage costs for the batteries. Last point is about the important role of the LNG, because we started really to look of 4 pathways how we can decarbonize also the LNGs. So the LNG infrastructure is really able to allow a different possibilities when we talk to import and export renewable and low carbon gases. So the first one is really to have this upstream green gasification. So that means that the existing infrastructure that can be used already to import bio, LNG or synthetic. Then you have, well, here you don't really need modifications for the terminals. So downstream blue hydrogen is the second option, and it's also a valuable one because you can also use the existing infrastructure and the imports can be done afterwards, or it will be converted into the blue hydrogen via stream methane reforming, or also using the CCUS technology. The third option is, of course, the hydrogen, which is from upstream being produced, and LNG infrastructure can be converted to receive a different hydrogen carriers in the form of liquefied hydrogen, in the forms also of ammonia. You know, the ammonia is one of the very kind of preferable option. And lastly is the e-fuels, which will play a very important part within the existing infrastructure that we operate that provides the possibility to use or convert it to ammonia or methanol. Last thing is that LNG is a very useful infrastructure, which is not, expected really to keep its value in this perspective. So before to come to an end, some key regulatory elements, which I'm actually happy to tackle if you want at the end of our discussion within the question session. Thank you, Thomas.
Bojana, I see your last sentence, financial framework.
Yeah.
What about all the new infrastructure for gas which are necessary, still necessary, and we have no support from EIB, from European Commission? Who will finance this? Who will finance the gasification of Western Balkans? Or this is something that could be done with just commercial banks? What do you consider? This infrastructure will be able to be constructed today or not?
I think we should consider very much the issue with the investments, and there's a lot of discussion which are based on the fact that European Investment Bank has stopped the financial support for gas projects. Although that some of them which are planned are still being really able to continue to receive the planned financial support, right? It is very true what Andrei Konoplianik already mentioned in the first session, that the ambitions of the first commission, which started a very proper unbundling process, a very free flows, a very proper, how to say, processes within the third energy package to have this free market, are going to be changed with the ambitions with the new commission. So basically what we need to do is to make sure that all the projects which are considerable about the security of supply, the communication, interconnectivity between, let's say, the countries within the region and within the Balkans needs to continue to be a priority on this perspective and to receive in investments. Indeed, there's a lot of, recently the last fifth PCI project list was issued, and we can see some good examples of projects of our members, infrastructure operators, which are still mentioned as a project of common interest. And I can feel that such kind of a good example can continue also for the region if, let's say, this project also showcase a perspective to deliver, let's say, also green solutions. So for me, that could be the option that the European Investment Bank can continue, let's say, emphasize financial resources for the region. But very important, as I mentioned, security of supply and interconnectivity, which is planned within the region, namely the projects like interconnectivity between Bulgaria, Serbia, the interconnector with Bulgaria, Greece, all the interconnectivity, which is important for the Balkans, needs to continue to receive such kind of financial support.
Thank you, Bojana, for your really meaningful and thorough presentation and analysis. We pass directly to Dr. Gerasimos Avlonitis. Good morning, Gerasimos.
Good morning, Thomas. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. Actually, it's Mr. Avlonitis, not doctor, by the way. But it's a pleasure to be here and to continue this very, very interesting discussion. I will just combine a little bit the discussion of the last panel with what Bojana has just presented, and start discussing a little bit of what is going on in the southeastern European area, region, but also both in terms of gas, what we expect to see in terms of gas demand, but also what is happening on market developments and what is happening on wholesale market organization, which, by the way, I believe that it is a process that should not stop, but should be further encouraged and pursued. Okay, so let's have a quick look of what is happening and what we expect to happen in Greece in the next 10 years. So what we see is a continuous increase in the natural gas consumption and natural gas demand that will be driven by power generation, as explained also today in yesterday's talk with Mr. Kapros and so many other speakers. We expect that the gas-fired generation will be increasing. Actually, natural gas will be the fuel that will support the diminishing role of the lignite, but also the increasing contribution of renewable energy sources. We also expect some part of the demand to be increased because of the increased gasification of the country. As you know, we have more expansion of distribution grids in several areas of the country. And last but not least, it is our plans to have new services that may be of interest not only for Greece, but also for the region, which is the small-scale LNG services. At the same time, we expect that we are having a similar considerable demand in the region of the southeastern region, and in particular, I'm using as a reference here 2025 because it's the year where we expect the natural gas demand in Greece also to be sort of stabilized. Of course, as Mr. Hamadakis, my colleague, said this morning, we expect this after 2030, just to complete the picture, this to be gradually replaced by renewable gases and hydrogen, but we expect the demand for transportation services to remain the same or even increase as we're moving towards greater hydrogen introduction to the mix. At the same time, as I said, we see a considerable demand also in the whole of the southeastern Europe. Gas is going to help us, Bojana just mentioned, to help decarbonize, especially in areas where coal was dominating or it was the exclusive, in some cases, exclusive source of power generation. So with this picture, we believe that what we need, and given that these markets that I just explained, there are markets that they are dominated by a few suppliers or a single supplier. And in many cases, with the exception of Romania, of course, we're talking about 100% dependency on imports, no production. Then it is very important to differentiate supply routes and supply sources. We believe that our system, it is really serves as a connecting tissue for different investment initiatives, different import infrastructure. We have heard about the Origa gas, the FSRU, new terminal, the existing Revitus LNG terminal, of course. It is a system that is connecting all infrastructure together, and it's providing opportunities for exporting in the region, opportunities for diversifying supply sources and price signals as well for the whole region. Of course, the prerequisites for that is a proper regulatory framework that will allow the infrastructure to be used efficiently all the way. This is happening in Greece, and this is increasingly happening in the rest of the countries of the region. What has been, what we have experienced in the last year is a lot of cross-border trading to develop. Actually, it is not only cross-border, but it's also a cross-sectoral trading. And I will explain what I mean. Since 2018, in Greece, we have established the virtual trading point, where over-the-counter bilateral deals can happen and can be registered. At the same time, this was accompanied by a major upgrade of our regulatory framework that became very much trading friendly. It coincided also with the opening up of the interconnection between Bulgaria and Greece. The result of this development was that, as you can see, we have experienced a very vivid cross-border trading between Greece and Bulgaria. This was also accompanied by major developments on the Bulgarian side. So you say on the blue, with the blue columns, the import side from Bulgaria to Greece, and with red, the exports from Greece to Bulgaria, which is a considerable part of the overall commercial flows at the interconnection point. So additionally, we can see that many traders are also active in the Bulgarian traders at the Greek BTP, at the Hellenic BTP, and the other way around. At the same time, we can see that power generators that have excess or shortage of gas because of the imbalances on the electricity system, they are using our balancing platform and the trading facilities to get rid of the gas that they had already ordered, but they cannot use for power generation for reasons that are related to the electricity market, or the other way around. And this gas that is in excess or it is in shortage, it is taken or sent, as the case may be, cross-border to Bulgaria. So it is an excellent example of how well-functioning market and well-designed markets can help the whole energy system to function properly. As a next step, we are working since some time now when we are ready to deliver in the beginning of 2022. We're working with the Hellenic Energy Exchange very closely and very intensely to establish a gas exchange in Greece. This is something that will facilitate all the commercial activity. It provides more trading options, flexibility, and in the future, risk management tools. But most importantly, it can provide what is missing in the region, reliable price signals. Of course, this will be, these reliable price signals can complement the fact that we have an infrastructure that can, as I said, can accommodate increasing volumes of gas that can be moved further upstream in the countries of the region and help diversification of supply and price and better pricing and the best possible supply conditions for the consumers, and also attract our ambition is through this gas exchange to attract even more traders and shippers from the region. Although we're talking about a gas exchange, and in the beginning, of course, we're talking about natural gas, we expect that this market structure will be the case also for the renewable gases and green gases that are about to come. We expect and we see no reason why such an effort to establish a liquid gas market so far in Europe, that as we heard this morning, and also if we can induce from the discussions yesterday, that is functioning well. All these fluctuations that we can see, we have seen it in the past. Mr. Kaparos explained it very, very well yesterday. A well-functioning market eventually will help having the best possible conditions of supply, respecting the fundamentals. We expect this to be the case also for renewable gases in the future. So this work is here to stay with us for even some time, and also expanding into guarantees of origin and everything else that the new gas package will bring in December. We are very happy to see that not only trading conditions are not only improving in Greece, but we are very happy to see the picture changing in the region as well. Here is the well-known EFET, European Federation of Energy Traders Gas Hub benchmarking study, which shows practically in a few words, it shows the progress we have in different years in several countries in the region. We are happy to say that not only Greece, but also Turkey, Ukraine, Bulgaria, and Romania are making tremendous progress in their market design and in their trying to establish the best trading conditions in every one of the local hubs of Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Romanian, etc. And this is, as I said, critical for regions where we have 100% dependence on imports and very high concentration of market concentration of the suppliers. So the best trading conditions, the more options for the consumers, and the best possible prices for the country. So all this, the improvement of the trading conditions in each and particular hub, it is particularly interesting that it brings more regional approaches. I am referring in particular, among many other things that are happening in the region and many talks between TSOs, hubs, etc. The Southeast and East European Gas Platform, the CGAS, an initiative that was started by the energy community last year within 2021 and was also supported by EBRD. CGAS has the, its role is to bring TSOs and gas exchanges on the same table, discussing about the challenges that they are faced in each region, streamlining processes, and possibly, if this is feasible from also a commercial point of view, and possibly harmonized practices in order to have trading along physical routes, trading along the Trans-Balkan pipeline, trading spreads between different regions, and in general, creating a situation, to the extent possible, similar to what we see in the Northern European gas hubs, where traders can play in different jurisdictions without any problem, play on margins on different markets, etc. Very recently, in September, an MOU was signed between all the TSOs and exchanges that you see on this map. We were very happy and proud, along with Henex, to join this effort. The MOU that was signed has as a purpose to the development of cross-border natural gas trading, of course, based on European best practices, cooperation on the implementation of an effective commodity clearing system. This is one of the most critical aspects of hub development, to have also to eliminate counterparty risk through proper clearing services. And last but not least, efficient cross-border gas transmission interoperability where needed. We are particularly interested and we're pursuing work on the Trans-Balkan pipeline and the reverse flow on the Trans-Balkan pipeline, which can really provide, we believe, huge benefits for the region. That was all from my side, a very brief presentation of what we are experiencing in the region in terms of market, natural gas market design with a view to the future.
Thank you, Gerasime. But a small question. Describe us the prerequisites for being successful in creating in establishing this cross-border gas trading in Southeast Europe.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, we need to have the physical thing. We need to have ample capacity. We need to have capacity within the countries, and we need to have interconnection capacity in place, adequate for the volumes that we want to exchange. But we need to understand that the physical infrastructure is not always used to the extent possible, but it is used in order to convey not natural molecules, but price signals. So it is important to have adequate physical infrastructure in place. We need to have diversification of supply sources so that we create different competition with supply sources and we create price signals. These price signals can then be conveyed through the physical infrastructure and start having trading. What it is the most important thing for this to happen, it is to have a clear and user-friendly regulatory framework, and a regulatory framework not only in each country, but a regulatory framework that is applicable to the whole region. The most harmonized rules you have, the most easily is for traders to use these tools and start trading. If the physical infrastructure is there and if diversified sources are there, the other thing that is missing is the regulatory framework and proper market design. So I think these three things are the key prerequisites. I would put one more thing, if you allow me. It is the size of the market. And this is what is a very small market, obviously cannot be developed. And I'm referring also to some discussions on yesterday about, we don't have a lot of competition in the electricity sector, etc. Okay, we are a small market, and all the markets in the region are relatively small for having, this kind of deep competition. However, this is the purpose of market integration. Integrating markets means we're creating more space and the necessary volume and depth in order to have real competitive conditions. So regional approaches, market integration, along with the other thing, regulatory framework, diversified supply sources, and physical infrastructure I think that's what is completing the picture. What it takes to make functioning wholesale markets.
Yes, but tell me, what is the reasoning and the benefits for the CE region of establishing gas hubs? Same time that gas hubs are accused in Europe and elsewhere as the reason for the high gas prices.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say I do not. If you have followed these discussions yesterday and today, we see we are complaining about the hub prices, but nobody is questioning that these are underpinned by market fundamentals. Nobody is questioning that we are having a particular supply and demand situation. We have somebody who is buying on the Far East at any price. There is indeed fundamentals that they are supporting these high gas prices. On the other hand, as Mr. Konoplianik very properly said before, high gas prices doesn't mean necessarily that they have to be passed through completely to the consumers. The hub price, the wholesale market price, is a fundamental, gives a fundamental price signal. Something is happening and we need to understand why. Without that, anything else, and long-term contracts and pricing would be practically based on nothing. Do you imagine a situation where we'll have, for example, very high natural gas prices because of some situation in the oil business? All the consumers would be complaining, what do we have to do with oil? What is the real natural gas fundamental? Nobody would understand why we have to pay a lot for natural gas because of the increase in the oil prices. Gas hubs give price signals and try and help us to understand what is really goes on in the market. On the other hand, as I said, high gas pricing doesn't mean high gas prices doesn't mean necessarily high gas pricing, as Mr. Konoplianik said. Okay, there are tools where we can hedge on these gas prices, and this is something that is happening in the most advanced wholesale markets, in the most advanced hubs, TTFs, etc. We have forward contracts. We have all kind of hedging and risk management tools that would help us cope with the fluctuation of prices. Also, the gas hubs help on the standardization of procedures and processes, and they help to have the best possible supply conditions in each particular jurisdiction, not only because of paper trading, but also because physically, as I explained before, what is happening in Greece in our interconnection, it helps the players in both the gas and electricity market to balance their positions within the day, physical balancing of their positions. So I think these are this is I think the best the benefits that I can say from the hubs, which by the way they are not, of course. It became very clear in the last presentation. Hubs are not in contrary to the long-term contracts. Hub prices, as I said, I will repeat that, it doesn't mean hub pricing all the way. We can have long-term contracts with different pricing structures that they take into account the hub prices, but without being a complete pass-through. So
thank you very much.
They complement the function of the market. That's
Thank you, Gerasimos, very much. I kindly ask my old friend, Mr. Gökhan Yardim, ex-chairman of BOTAS and for a long time advisor, extremely experienced advisor in the energy issues, especially in gas.
Thank you, Chairman, for getting floor to me. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, first of all, I would like to thank IENE, Mr. Kostis Stambolis, and organizing committee for inviting me to this very valuable and important event. I'm the only speaker from Turkey about the natural gas. That's why I would like to give you some briefing about the natural gas sectors in Turkey. As we all know, last year we started with COVID-19 pandemic, and we all locked down at home. Our life was restricted partly and sometime wholly. We in Turkey, first case of COVID-19 officially declared on March 11, 2020. There was a partial shutdown for certain age groups on various states and complete shutdown when the epidemic accelerated. Vaccination started January this year. Although there was a pandemic, total energy consumption of Turkey increased in 2020 to 147 million ton oil equivalent. So as we all know that Turkey's share of import is 70%, so Turkey depends on the import of energy, and the fossil fuels is 83%. Turkey uses fossil fuels extensively, but within the framework of domestic and national energy policies developed in 2017, it has given importance to renewable energy sources as well as local resources, and investments in this field, and accordingly, electricity production from renewable energy have begun to increase. Yesterday, Dr. Yiğit Güden explained you in detail, Turkey's total installed capacity reached 99 gigawatt at the end of October. And thermal in this, thermal reached 48% and hydro 31%, and the renewables reached 90%. Because Turkey's installed power is well above the expected electricity consumption capacity, electricity consumption is expected to increase by 8% compared to previous year and will reach 330 billion kilowatt hours. This high spare capacity provides a safe production power against both economic and climate differences in production. Last year, especially this year, was quite dry season, but there was no problem in electricity production. The decrease that occurred in hydropower production was met in production from fossil-fueled power plants, especially from natural gas-based power plants. If we come to the impact of pandemic on natural gas, we can talk about 8% decrease, especially due to the industry lockdown during the last year. Recovery started in the second half of last year. In this slide, you will see the lockdown period. The green one is the 2020, and pink one is the 2020, green one is 2019, and the yellow one is this year. But we can see very easily the lockdown period, especially this is the complete lockdown period. So let's concentrate on Turkish natural gas system. As you can see, there are 2 land and 2 FSRU LNG import terminals. 1 land and 1 FSRU belongs to BOTAŞ, while the others owned by private investors. 5th one on the Saros Bay is under construction and will be in operation in the first half of next year. The number of natural gas subscribers has increased to 17.9 million, and population that actively benefits from natural gas has increased to 56 million by offering natural gas usage opportunity to 82% of our country's population. Total transmission and distribution network length reached 182,000 kilometers. The first phase of the Tuz Gölü underground storage, built in salt structures, and North Marmara underground gas storage, which is a depleted gas field, have been completed, and with the completion of the ongoing capacity increase works in 2023, Turkey will be able to store 20% of its natural gas consumption. After this overview, I would like to explain the consumption and supply trends. Starting with consumption, natural gas is mainly used in 3 sectors: households, industry, and power plants. The share of household segment in consumption is constantly increasing. Due to its peak demand in winter, and almost only in winter, this increase requires investment in expensive underground gas storage and importation of LNG in certain months. You see, this very high jump is because of the dry season. And industrial consumption is 2022 is less than the other years because of the lockdown period. So this year we expect to reach 61 billion cubic meters will be consumed. So this will be the record consumption in Turkish natural gas history. As you will be able to see the next slide, 2021 is a significant year for Turkey, since at the end of this year, the long-term contracts amounting to 15.9 billion cubic meters of annual quantities from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Nigeria will have been expired. This year, 6.6 billion contract is already expired, and Nigerian LNG contract also expired. 1.3 billion Nigerian contract is expired. 8 billion contracts from the Russians, 4 BCM belongs to state company BOTAŞ, 4 billion cubic meters from the private companies will expire at the end of this year. In response to these expirations, BOTAŞ has recently signed some new contracts. As we all know, first, it signed a new sales and purchase agreements with Azerbaijan for Shah Deniz 2 field in connection with realization of TANAP project. Recently, BOTAŞ signed another contract with Shah Deniz Consortium until the end of 2024. However, this contract does not fully represent the expiring 6.6 billion contract. This contract will be between 2.6 to 3.8 billion cubic meters. Speaking at the 11th Turkish Energy Summit, Energy Minister Fatih Dönmez stated that Turkey had reached an agreement in principle in natural gas negotiations with Russia, and said that they will turn into a written agreement in near future. Contracts that expire at the end of the year will also be renewed. The duration of these contracts will not be as long as before, but the maturities such as 3 to 10 years. Turkey's contract terms have expired. Consumption growth has reached record values, and world LNG prices have reached unbelievable prices this year. So, how Turkey overcome these problems? First of all, Turkey's natural gas purchase portfolio includes a large amount of long-term oil-based contracts, which the gas industry calls them old-fashioned contracts, but these contracts have provided a great price advantage in Turkey's purchases. So this slide, we all know, is the TTF prices, the European spot prices. This is the prices, what in EPH, daily reference prices, it gives an indication also, it follows this price fluctuations. So we also extended up to certain extent with the spot gas prices. So even though Turkey benefited from LNG imports, especially from USA, in periods like 2020 last year when LNG is competitive, this is no longer the case. LNG prices have skyrocketed, and despite rising oil prices, the oil index pricing formula reveals a significant lower contract price compared to current LNG prices this year. In the first 8 months of this year, we'll see that pipe gas share is bigger than the previous 2 years because of these price advantages. And the US LNG continue to increase in our portfolio. While storms broke out in the world in terms of price supply in such a complex energy and natural gas market, Turkey never deviated from its goal of being the center of energy trade in its region. For this purpose, Turkey has realized and continues to realize and continue the operation many important natural gas and oil pipelines in the region. So this is the slide for showing the Turkey's cooperation for the contribution to the energy trade. So as we all know, Turkey and Greek DEPA signed the gas sales and purchase agreements, and Turkey-Greece natural gas interconnector in operation since 2007. And from 2007 to 28th of November, BOTAŞ supplied 8.7 billion cubic meters of natural gas from Azerbaijan, which is the most economical contract in BOTAŞ portfolio. So Turkey supplied that gas with very small increase in the prices. So the second project is the TAP in operation on 31st of last year or this year, and the total quantity TAP KIPI 7.5 billion cubic meters to Europe. So to Italy 6.2 billion cubic meters and 1.1 billion cubic meters to Greece supplied. And this third one is the Turkish stream for the Russian gas, and from Stranja supplied to Bulgaria and Macedonia, maybe, and Hungary, 16.5 billion of cubic meters of gas supplied at the Bulgarian border. So the new concept is LNG trucks. Turkey is very developed in the LNG trucks. So by LNG trucks, Turkey supplied gas and LNG export to Bulgaria, Macedonia, Serbia, and should be also the Romania there. So altogether, till now, Turkey supplied more than 31 billion cubic meters of gas into the region. So in the last point, as we all know, Turkey is dependent on natural gas imports. This is because its domestic production meets only 2% its demand. I should note that this situation might change in future. As we all know, TPAO, state company, made a giant discovery. Looking at the current consumption, this discovery is predicted to meet a significant amount of the market demand. The prospects as of today highlights a potential of 540 billion cubic meters of gas. But there are some sayings that this 540 billion cubic meters may increase in very near future. We are expecting for another announcement. We learned from the statement of Minister Fatih Dönmez last week in Platform Upstream meeting, 7 wells have been drilled on this area. And Fatih drilling ship continues to work in Turkali 6 well. And after the preparation works completed, at Turkali 7 location, drilling works will begin. Offshore pipe laying from the field to the shore is planned to start spring next year. For the first phase of production in Sakarya field, after completion of the works with the pipe laying and the surface facilities, planned to start in 2023 with 10 million cubic meters per day. So, with 10 wells. So the plan is that in 2027, this quantity will increase 40 million cubic meters per day. That's all what I would like to tell about our situation in natural gas. So thank you for your listening.
Question before leave you to leave the floor. Lately, Turkey signed the Paris Agreement. Which are the consequences from this signature according, or better saying, adhere to the Paris Agreement, was not signing just. So what are the consequences of this adherence according to your understanding for the energy market in Turkey?
Yeah, Turkey ratified the Paris Agreement. So the plan for the decarbonization is under preparation. But what we can say that Turkey has a huge amount of lignites. So we are using the lignites and imported coal. And the coal power plants also in the installation capacity. So to use these lignites and the coal depends on the development of the carbon capture technologies. If carbon capture technologies is developed and well and economic, I think we may continue to use the coal. Coming to the natural gas, as I explained you, we will start to produce our own sources natural gas. Natural gas is a transition fuel. We have very new natural gas transmission and distribution system. And last year started the injection of hydrogen into the natural gas. So I don't think that we can give up from the natural gas. So the injection into the system up to 20% might be the way also for the natural gas decarbonizations. And Turkey has a lot of, and I gave you the wind and photovoltaic powers, and the potential is very big. So we think that the production of the green hydrogen and blending with natural gas could be the another step. And one more thing, yesterday Dr. Yiğit Güden explained you the nuclear power plants. Nuclear is carbon-free electricity production. The first unit will be in operation, and it will go up to 4 units, and the second and third power plants project is under the discussion. So if we come all together, I think after the announcement of the Turkey's roadmap for the carbon decarbonization, we will have a better picture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yardim.
You're welcome.
And really thank you for your thorough and very understandable presentation in everything you described for Turkey. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
Excuse me for the interruption. I would like just to remind the brief what the constitutional name of the country and Crossborder. So nowadays, according to the same country,
I think they can hear you.
the most important, the constitutional name is Crossborder. So I would like just to remind the brief that we have to be typical according to the procedures.
Thank you very much. Dr. Not yet.
So just for the name of the country.
Yes. It was just a remark. Dr. Katerina Saradi, I kindly ask you to pass to the floor. Dr. Saradi is country manager in Greece of Energean, one of the very big companies in our country. Please, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's a big pleasure for me to be here again after a 2 years break. I have attended conferences of ENA, this annual conference for, I think, almost 20 years, and it's always a pleasure to be here and attend these truly breathtaking sessions like the one I've been sitting in, and also the previous one that we're discussing my favorite topic, gas. So the way this presentation is structured, just for the ease of following it, I'm going to provide you with a brief introduction on Energean, who we are, what we do. Then I could not restrain ourselves of putting up a couple of provocative slides where I would like to discuss our pathway in the context of the European pathway on gas, because gas is a transitional fuel and gas is also a clean fuel. And then I would be ending on showing to you, sharing actually with you our vision for the next years to come, the next years to come being from 2025 onwards. So let me start by saying that yes, indeed, I do represent Energean. I represent actually the Greek part of Energean. Energean was mentioned in the truly excellent and educational presentation given by Tina Cohen in the previous session. Our name is sourced from energy and the Aegean Sea, where we actually started. But now Energean is active in 9 countries. You see them there on the map, starting from as north as the UK, going down to Italy, West Balkans, Greece, Egypt, Israel. We are listed in the London Stock Exchange. We're also listed in the Tel Aviv Exchange. We have reserves that exceed 1.1 billion barrels oil equivalent. We hope for a further growth of an additional 1 billion if our targets in 2022-2023 targets in drilling prove correct. And I will go into this in more detail in the next slides. We have a target of 200,000 barrels of oil equivalent as a production. we are committed in a net zero pathway, as most of the exploration and production players do nowadays. We are an ESG leader in environment, social, and governance. We have been awarded a number of awards. I'll go through them. And we are now also looking to shape our new strategy with carbon capture and storage and hydrogen. We started small, we started local, being the starting point more than almost 15 years ago, 2008, by the acquisition of Prinos, the only oil production field in Greece. We have progressed during that time. In 2017, we acquired licenses in the Karistanin fields in Israel. 2018, we made it to the London Stock Exchange. We got a listing in the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. We got a final investment decision for the Karis development. 2019, a mark point in our history. We have acquired the upstream part of Edison. We made the discovery in North Karis. We made the commitment to net zero by 2050. 2021 saw us with a final investment decision in Karis North in the fields of Egypt. We issued a 2.5 billion bond to proceed with the exploration production activities that we have in South Mediterranean. And we are working vigorously in designing the ambitious carbon project in Greece. So what I just said in figures, we are looking to 730 million barrels of oil equivalent in Israel, additional 30 million barrels of oil equivalent in Italy, almost 50 in Egypt, 53 in the Epsilon field in Greece. This is going to be the second oil-producing field in Greece. That's one more figure. Why we show these figures? Because figures are supposed to be more than 1,000 words. It's also here to show you that we are indeed delivering what I'm describing. This is the FPSO currently in the Singapore shipyard. It's due to be brought in operation. It will be transported to Israel by the beginning of 2022. It will be start producing gas, delivering about 40% of Israel's gas consumption. And it's almost ready. Looking again at Israel, which is our major field, we are 2022-2023 program highlights. We're looking at 5 high-impact wells in the green areas that you see. We have an $80 million commitment investment. We have we estimate a probability of success in our drilling projects from 72 to 94%. We are serving the growing Israeli market. We are also indeed looking also for possibilities for export. Export could be realized also in, first of all, serving the Israeli market is one major but realizable goal. We're already covering 40% of the Israeli gas demand. We are looking at the export possibilities. Ms. Cohen had already touched upon the fact that there is infrastructure that could be taken advantage of. Export pipeline to Jordan, export pipeline to Egypt, LNG exports from Egypt to Europe. Essentially, a part we could be contributed to the realization of the southern part of the South Corridor in the East Europe. And here I stop and take a breath and start with my provocative slide because I'd like to initiate some discussion because we are also puzzled. What you see in the boxes is the essentially European policy, Greek policy, Italian policy, which is also a country where we're active in. What is the trend? Stop hydrocarbon investments, even gas, although gas is clean. Shift immediately to renewables, rely on imports, carbon taxes in various forms, national carbon taxes, the European trading scheme, the recently proposed CBAM cross-border adjustment mechanism as part of the Fit 55 package, fast transition to renewable energy sources, carbon storage, hydrogen, higher gas and electricity prices that we see now, which may be circumstantial, but may be here to stay. And this situation happens actually about 20 years where the whole Europe has been working on what is called the target model, the electricity target model, the gas target model, the integration of all countries so that we can have gas flowing and electricity flowing in any direction freely. My old colleague and the friend Erasmus Avlonidis presented to you the fact that now rules are actually being utilized, opportunities are being utilized. We have reverse flows from Greece to Bulgaria. Who could have ever believed that like 10 years ago? But it's there, it's working. We have infrastructure in Southeast Europe in place. 10 years ago, there was none. It was just a dream, not even a vision, a dream. But it's here, and it's working. And suddenly, we have something like a shock. On the other hand, if we look at the other markets that we are active in, we have, for example, Israel, for example, Egypt, that they are taking advantage of the new recoveries. We have investment in hydrocarbons. We have actions for security of supply. We have energy independence. We have affordable, sustainable, and continuously available energy. You will tell me, but it's not sustainable because gas is fossil. Yes, but it's cleaner than other fuels. Yes, because now technology permits to have also, in addition to renewable actions, also work on efficiency, work on synergy, work on a holistic approach of reducing carbon footprint. And then transition. Yes, transition should be happen, but there is a question mark. Should it happen as fast? That's the typical figure that I'm sure everybody has been showing. I've already seen it twice since this morning. The light blue line is the Dutch TTF gas future price. The lower thick line is our price in the Israelis long-term contract that we have signed and delivering. One figure, 1,000 words. But yes, we do need to reduce our carbon footprint. Yes, we cannot go around polluting and jeopardizing the climate for the next generations to come. So yes, we are cautious, although we advocate the cleanness of gas as a transitional future fuel. Yes, we are taking actions to reduce our carbon footprint. What you see there is our carbon footprint, essentially carbon intensity as per barrel of oil produced. We have a commitment to go about a reduction of 85% by 2023, below our 2019 levels. We are already well below industry average. We have certain actions taken. We work with the first climate change policy. We have a climate change policy. We work on the net zero commitment. We purchase green electricity so that at least we have a zero scope 2 emissions. Scope 2 emissions are emissions due to electricity consumption. We have this kind of agreements in operation in Israel, in Greece, in Croatia, in Italy. We have a zero routine flaring policy, effective across our whole portfolio. We are working in Greece, in Prinos, with a view to create a model field for the realization of zero carbon projects, which we plan to replicate across our portfolio. And as I said in the beginning, we actually outperform in environment, social, and governance standards and ratings. I will pass this. These are various awards that we got in regarding energy transition strategy and ESG. And this is our vision. Actually, it's more than a vision. It's something that we are working hard on to have it operational by 2025, first stage, to have this is the Prinos field, which is actually operational, the first oil field in Greece. I said we're already working in additional oil production from the Epsilon field nearby to where the existing field is is operating. But below the depleted fields of Prinos, we are looking to develop a carbon storage facility, that is big enough, it will start, let me rephrase, it will start as a small carbon storage facility. We need to start small because we have to do this fast so that it's operational by 2025. But what we term as small is big enough to hold about 50% of current annual industrial emissions. It's small, but it's big. If you want it in numbers, it can lead to a saving of about 6 billion euros just by storing the CO2 emissions of the Greek industry rather than releasing them in the atmosphere. What is the plan? We have already started a tender. We have called for a tender for a pre-FEED study to start in the first part of 2022. We're looking for obtaining the licenses until 2024. We are planning first injection of CO2 2025 in parallel. We are looking to develop an eco-hydrogen plant of production of about 40 million tons of hydrogen. This is a small quantity. It's about 0.5 terawatts. It's about 20% of what is actually produced today in Greece as gray hydrogen. It will utilize what you see here, which is not very clear. It will utilize existing processes, a patent that we have on a technology with using oxy-fuel combustion and resulting in a very efficient sequestration of CO2. How efficient? About 99%. This is much more than blue hydrogen, which is efficient in terms of CO2 of 90%. So that's from my side.
Thank you very much for this dynamic presentation of a dynamic energy company. We like it very much. Please continue with this way towards 2050.
Thank you.
We can achieve a lot of things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sardi. Now we have my friend John Basias, Dr. John Basias. I consider that you are presented yourself in the international fora as John. I'm very sorry. Yannis, I prefer much more.
Okay. I have a problem. I forgot my presentation, so I will need the micro and I stay here.
So of course you can stay here.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Hello to everybody. I messed up this morning because it is not good to have in your computer 2 USB keys. So when you save your presentation to one key and you bring here the other one, you have a problem. So, and it is too bad because I had a very beautiful picture that I wanted to show you. It is how the Southeast Mediterranean was 3,500 years ago, the time of the Minoan civilization. And the center was Crete. And you had a lot of commerce, you had a lot of routes. And when you look at this situation 3,500 years later on, I mean today, you have a lot of routes, but the center is not Crete. The center is a little bit, I would say, south and east, where all the big activity in oil and gas.
We hear you.
In oil and gas, and especially gas, is happening now. Anyway, as I told you, I don't have a couple of beautiful pictures, so I just wrote now down some questions that I will answer, but I will present you the questions before. And first of all, you know how we say there's an expression in Greek. It says, "Όποιος βιάζεται σκοντάφτει." I let the translator to explain that when you want to go fast, you may have problems and you can slide. And especially if the basement is a little bit wet. So this is what happened with the gas prices, with the availability of gas, and with the fact that some important markets during and after the pandemic took all this gas, I mean China, and that was the most important reason that Europe faced difficulties. And it is not the dirty game of traders who we have them all the time. They will be here all the time. They will continue. They were here. The problem is that what happened was that US especially, they canceled all the investment they had for LNG, trains, terminals, and so all this gas that could come from the shale gas from US and arrive to Europe, as it was done a few years ago, went straight to Korea, India, China, and Europe, because this union was not very well prepared, found a lot of difficulties. And then, where these difficulties will be more expressed, it will be in the southern part of this union, and this is what we faced in Greece in the last year with the changes in the weather. I would not say climate change, because climate change is something else. It is at the scale of 100, 200, 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, or 100,000 years. But we faced all of these difficulties with the warm weather, the cold weather, and as things were not prepared so well, and as the gas went somewhere else, prices went up. You don't have the same prices in US, and you don't have the same prices when gas travels through the pipes. You have these high prices when gas travels through the LNG carriers. That is a very good, a very clever and cost-effective method, provided that we control that and we regulate that in the right way. So if you look now the Southeast Mediterranean, everything is geopolitics there, and it will influence Greece also and all the other countries. But if you look at the global scale, it is the market that decides, and the market decided to pay a lot to have all this liquefied gas in Asia rather than elsewhere else. So that was the main reason, I think, that we faced these difficulties. I don't say that whatever every presentation yesterday and today, it is wrong, it is very right, but what I think, and I'm telling you, it is one of the components of this situation that destabilized the economy. Under this situation, what the European Union is doing, they are trying to regulate again. Let's do one more committee. Let's make another one committee, and maybe another one committee, and we will regulate that. We will vote something else, and here is where we are. Yesterday, I think you heard a lot about that. It is okay, but it is not sufficient. And this is why I use this Greek expression, who is trying to run and he does not take care of the basement, he can slide very easily. Now, something else. I will go there straight, even if in my presentation I wanted to have that at the end. There is another one Greek expression, but we have that everywhere. It says, «Μαζί δεν κάνουν και χώρια δεν μπορούνε». It means they cannot stay apart. They have to be all the time together. And here I'm talking about hydrogen, because we said that gas is very important. And hydrogen now, it is the new idea. It is not an ideal, it is an industrial project, but it is an industrial project that started in the 80s. It is the 5th time that hydrogen comes on the surface. It happened in the European Union. It happened to big car constructors like industrials like Ford. It happened also in Quebec because they wanted to use the hydroelectric plants and transform hydrogen to toluene and bring that in Europe. Then in 2000, a lot of projects in the European Union were looking to exploit hydrogen. And we have that again here. But the problem with the hydrogen is that it is very expensive. And we will have a development on that, but not now. And imagine that, we have the green, the blue. It is the two main colors of the spectrum of hydrogen, although we have some others. The electrolysis, so the blue hydrogen, it requires a lot of energy today. And the technology will not allow to do that. It is a law of chemistry. It is not political, not economical chemistry, simple chemistry. So, and don't forget that hydrogen, it is not a source of energy. It is a byproduct of a source of energy that can be gas, that can be water. So what you want to do is to separate hydrogen from oxygen. But they like them so much, like Romeo and Juliet, very difficult. And the problem is that if you want to do electrolysis, you will need 8 to 9 times more energy, electrical energy, than the one that you will have using methane to produce hydrogen. This is today. Later on it will change. Yesterday we had some very good presentations by a company, I don't say the name because we don't do advertising here, but things will progress, but not now. So I come again on that, not going very fast. And what else I can say? With the renewables, I guess you understand that the needs for metals and rare earths it becomes more and more important. Last year there was a report from the United Nations saying that the next generation, when I say next generation, I mean my grandkids, they will need as far metal as the last 2,500 generations. When you take an average age of 40 years for all of these previous generations, you go back to 100,000 years, it was the time of Homo sapiens. So yes, and it is true. You know what is going on now. I mean, an electric car needs twice more copper than a previous one. And I'm not telling you about the wind turbines, etc., etc. So all of this, it is not to be scared, but it is good that we know that, because everything represents a cost, and this cost, you will not have that coming from the sky. Someone has to pay, and it is people. Now, yeah, there are some other. There is some other wording that it is interesting, like. It is not true that the renewables, it is the new step, because we used renewables since the beginning of the mankind. Wood, water, wind. What is new is oil and gas. And what is more new, it is gas. And this, why? Because of that, the GDP in the last 200 years, from the time we started using oil, multiplied by 200 or 300. And this is why we are here. We have all this comfort of life and standing, etc. It was not before, when we were using coal, and even before. So it is important that we have the hydrocarbons, because if not, we would not have all this energy to feed the machines. And without machines, we would not have the possibility to multiply our strength by 200 times. So don't take me wrong, but everybody of us has 200 slaves in his life. It can be a coffee machine, it can be a refrigerator, it can be a car, it can be whatever you want, but without machines, you cannot do that. And all of this, it is not philosophy, it is not, just to say something, it is because gas, and this is where I want to arrive, is the most important today. And it will be the most important also to go to other technologies that can be renewable or new technologies, innovative, that will allow to bypass the difficulty of the recent renewables, the today's renewables, that have all of this difficulty to translate, to transform emotion or another characteristic to electricity. You know very well that the turbines, the wind turbines, they have a limitation that is a physical limitation, and this whoever who is physicist here, he can say that. We learned that the first year of our university studies is that the electricity that can produce a turbine depends, it is function of the cube of the flow of the wind. So if the wind flows 1, the cube of 1, simplification, it will be 1. If the wind flows 2 or 3 times more, you go to 8 or to 27. And this is why it is important to have locations where the wind is almost constant, because it is the only way to produce electricity in a constant way. But this is not possible because the today renewables are stochastic. They are intermittent. They cannot provide all the time the energy that we would like to capture. As for the solar, that half of the day, I mean, during 12 hours, it is night, it is dark, and you don't have any photons that will help on this creation of electricity. So here I am, and I just want to finish with something else, because hydrogen will be important, but it will be important for those who own gas. If you do not own gas and you want to buy gas to create hydrogen, something is going wrong with your mind. And this is how I will finish my presentation. I'm sorry I don't have, I had not the opportunity to show you some beautiful images. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yannis, for your inspired presentation. Unfortunately, as we are running out of time, we are already 40 minutes. No, of course not. It was, let's say, well-organized common crime. We delayed all of us together. So, thank you very much, our panelists. for their presentation, their approach for these interesting energy issues. Thank you. Thank you very much.